Okay, my thoughts on the Suicide Squad. I put up a short video right after I saw the movie, and I've had a little bit more time to think about it. So here's some of my more in depth thoughts. First, why was the Joker in the movie? It didn't make sense. I know that a lot of his scenes were cut. Why were they cut? I wonder. There was so much that they could have done with Harley Quinn and the Joker, and they didn't really visit it. So I felt like, are they saving that material so they can make a new movie later? And if so, why did they shoot any of those scenes? Because they gave us the whole backstory in these little clips, and they weren't even fleshed out scenes. They were just like clips of scenes for the Joker and Harley Quinn, and obviously they want that to be a big part of their franchise. So I I did not understand that decision making, and there was two major things wrong with the movie itself. One was decision making, which I felt was just awful. The other was pacing. Like the pacing was super odd. It was the movie starts and you're just right there in it, and then they go to these little backstories that again are not even backstories. They're clips of backstories. These little weird flashback scenes that I didn't felt like they worked, and they felt like like music videos without music, I guess. And I'll get to the music later on that I touched on in my first little initial review. So, but the movie, I felt like it suffered from the same thing that Batman vs Superman suffered from, which was just a real lack of storytelling. There's no coherent story there. Um, it's a lot of, okay, we're going here, we're gonna do this, we're going here, we're gonna do this, we're going here, we're gonna do this, and there's no, a story should be a web, and there was no webbing to it whatsoever. It was just very direct, like dut dut dut, and there was nothing to it. There was certainly no creativity to it. I heard that David Ayers wrote it, and I also heard that maybe he didn't have enough time, and so he was limited by that. Because I feel like normally as a writer he's okay, but not in this case at all. This is a really bad movie, and it all comes down to David Ayer's decision making. And maybe Zack Snyder has something to do with it as well, because he is executive producer with his wife. His wife has got to be off DC. She has got to be off this property altogether. I don't know what they're thinking putting her on this. This to me, the DCEU, which is what they're calling it, is 0 for 3 now, and not just 0 for 3, but big misses. How people are enjoying these movies, I feel like the type of people that are enjoying these kind of movies, which is if you liked it, it's fine. But I feel it's the same kind of people that like the Transformer movies, the Michael Bay style movies, where you don't, not a lot of thought is required in watching these. There's no self, I guess not self reflection, but just reflection in general. There's just no thinking involved. Everything is just there explained for you on the screen. And I feel like more movies are being made this way because they're trying to market to China. And obviously it would be in subtitles, so they want all the action to be on the screen, and the dialogue to be at a minimum, I guess, and the story to be at a minimum. I don't know. I think that has something to do with it, but I could totally be wrong on that. So, and one thing that I will say quickly is I feel like if you don't like a DC movie, then people automatically assume that you're a Marvel fanboy, or if you don't like a Marvel movie, you're a DC fanboy or whatever, which I think is so it's beyond childish. I didn't like the movie because it's not a good movie. The movies that I like have a little depth, a plot, a story, some character development. There's none of that. At least none with any creativity. And if people like that sort of thing, I think it's mindless, cheap entertainment. And if that's your thing, that's fine. I just expect a little bit more, especially when they're spending $175 million on a movie. I think the better movies are like Deadpool that spent 60 million. Spend that, and that way the movie has to depend on the story. That's what they did in the 90s. I feel like the 90s is the best movie of decade for movies of all time because they're not spending that much money making them, and they have to depend on the story and the character development, good acting, good writing, the plot. That's what they're depending on for good movies, not what this crap that we're seeing now. And I think it's crap. So again, I think that's 0 for 3 for the DCEU. Wonder Woman looks really good. I'm excited for that because I don't think Zack Snyder has any involvement in Wonder Woman. He did direct a scene in Suicide Squad. I don't know how much involvement he had, but he and his wife just have to go. But Wonder Woman does look really good. I'm not excited for the Justice League at all. Zack Snyder's directing that. No, I'm not. Mm-mm. Um, so far, Man of Steel I thought was awful. Batman vs Superman I thought was awful. Suicide Squad was even worse than both of them. I don't understand these people that are raving about Suicide Squad. I don't see it at all. If you liked it, it's okay, but it wasn't for me. And David Ayers did a movie called Training Day with Denzel Washington, who I think won the Academy Award for that. He did a movie that I really love called End of Watch with Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena. And both of those have to deal with like LA. They have to deal with like the Latino community. The like gang type of I guess gang type of storytelling. There's a lot of that kind of material in it, and I felt like that's the reason. I guess that's his wheelhouse. That's the reason why Diablo was in the movie, and why Diablo had a bigger character arc than the other characters. But I felt like that was, I guess, racially insensitive because every Latino has to be a gang member that has domestic violence issues. So again, back to decision making, and I guess with that director, that's what you have to expect. I don't know, but he's capable of making a good movie. But I feel like more he has a niche that he needs to stay in. He went outside that niche when he made Fury, which also had really awkward pacing issues. And again, the pacing of Suicide Squad is horrendous. The editing is really bad. And then some of the things that are in the movie in general are really bad. Just the ideas, like the light thing shooting up into the sky. It's just that's been played out to death. I can't believe they went that direction, especially with this movie. This is not a magic type. That's something you might put in like Doctor Strange. You don't put that in Suicide Squad. It just like the Joker should have been their adversary. It just pretty common sense, really. So it just baffled me. A lot of the Enchantress was terrible, and people keep talking about the way she was moving her arms and her hips. I don't really care about that. What I cared about was a fleshed out character, and she's not. None of them were fleshed out characters. We got a little bit with the star of the movie, Will Smith, he was okay. A little bit with Harley Quinn, more with Diablo than anything because I feel like that type of character is David Ayer's wheelhouse, so that's why he went that direction. But it was just bad. So it was so bad I was a little embarrassed, and I look forward to these movies for years ahead of time. And so when they're not good, I get upset, and I vent a little bit. So I've been really really excited for this. So I'm not some kind of fanboy that it's just looking for nitpicking and looking for reasons to dislike the movie. That's not the case at all. I was really hoping for, and maybe I guess it's fair. Maybe I was maybe I've been spoiled by the Christopher Nolan movies. The third one was okay, but 1 and 2 are excellent, and they're layered stories. They're really intricate, detailed, layered stories. And so maybe I've been spoiled by that, and I'm expecting that in what are basically kids movies. So I guess that could be part of the problem. I don't know. I just expect a little bit more. And DC is just they're not doing it, so they're doing a terrible job. So I guess overall I would give this movie a D plus. For me that might even be generous. I don't When I sit down for a movie, I'm excited. I love like the director's cut, the long take of movies. I'm certainly not looking for the movie to be over, but I was ready for this movie to be over an hour into it. I was like, what is this? What is going on? These are just a collection of scenes. Oh, and the music. That was a huge thing, a huge part of this problem with the movie. First of all, it's a total ripoff of Guardians of the Galaxy. I felt like they were obviously. I felt like the music, that even the choices that they made, that was someone at WB or DC that was like, oh, this worked for Guardians of the Galaxy, and look how much money it made, and so we'll do that in ours. Like, it was a really, really cheap tactic. I felt like it was a real serious manipulation of the audience. We were listening to the music, and when you hear good music, because those are, most of them were good songs, your mind tells you, okay, I'm having a good time. I'm having a good time at the movies right now. And so it was, people weren't thinking about that. They were just reacting to the music, not realizing the scene they're watching, which is what they're paying for, was not very good. So they had to throw this cheap, these cheap songs in, and a lot of it became a music video. And the songs that they pick have nothing to do with what's going on in the movie. So they just pick good songs, and just like in middle of a movie, just to throw that out there was really cheap, I felt like. So super disappointing for me. I guarantee you, when they wrote the scene, or when they shot them originally, that music was not supposed to be there, and the scenes were not very good. So they threw those in, and they're clearly trying to copy off Guardians of the Galaxy, which is just ridiculous. So a total lack of imagination. Anyway, I'll wrap this up, but I give it a D plus. It was kind of cool to see some of the B characters. I think a lot of the B characters their backstories are more interesting, and they have to rely on backstory. They have to rely on plot when they tell these B character stories. So I was really, really excited for this, and I'm super disappointed. So 0 for 3 for the DCEU so far. Wonder Woman should really be good. There's an animated Wonder Woman movie. It might still be on HBO right now. And if they do that, and it looks like that's what they're doing, that movie's going to be awesome. But that's the only thing in the DCEU that I'm excited about right now. There's 2 Justice League movies. Maybe the solo Batman movie, which is supposed to be like the movie... The Raid, I think, where they go through the building, like, one floor at a time, and it's Batman going through Arkham, like one floor at a time. That could be really cool. If Ben Affleck is writing and directing that, I would definitely pay money to go see that. But I don't know if I'll be paying for the Justice League. I may wait till it's on Blu-ray. So Zack Snyder's directing it. If that's not his last entry into the DCEU, I don't know what they are thinking. So that's my review. I appreciate you watching. I know that people don't really care what I think, but that's what I think.